Well, welcome back, everybody. And now we're going to round out our chats introducing the team from Frontlines and Faultlines and the National Security Institute. And a great pleasure for me today is to have with us Lieutenant General Peter Leahy, AC, former Chief of Army. And Peter, it's wonderful to have you out here at the University of Canberra building up, I think, what is a really exciting future for the university, filling in the space of the national security conversation. But you have a really deep background that equips you so well for this. I think you were the longest serving Chief of Army in the history of the Defence Force, going back to Light Horse Harry Chauvel. And I guess the period of time you served too was from about, 1971 you went into RMC, was it? Or,
that's right, yeah.
Right, okay. And finished up in about, 2008, was it? Or
2008 in July.
Right. So that's a long span of time, and you straddled so many different issues, so many situations that Australia was dealing with during that period, the sort of wind up of the Vietnam War and moving into that long, difficult period of adjustment for the Army and the Defence Force post-Vietnam, and then the rash of operations and problems the world was facing from the fall of the Berlin Wall. So you've seen it all, and you've also had a lot of experience dealing with international authorities and actors. So you're uniquely equipped to be in this position. But also when you were in the Army, you were the Director of Army Research and Analysis. And I know from my time watching you in operation, you really encouraged a lot of thought and contribution by everybody in the Army, no matter what position they filled, to think about how we could improve the Army, how we could build a better Defence Force. And so through the Future Land Warfare Doctrine and publications, there's a lot of wonderful contributions made during that time. But I guess my question to you would be, having filled all that background in with so much rich experience, and it included serving with the Gurkhas as a company commander, I believe, and you carry some interesting foreign decorations with you as well. When you moved to set up the National Security Institute at the University of Canberra, what was your ambition?
Well, one, I wanted to teach.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to contribute back to the community through teaching. And as an Army career, you're teaching all the time. In my case, I taught at the Officer Cadet School at Portsea.
Right.
I taught at the Infantry Centre at Singleton. And I also taught, and this was a terrific time, in the United States Command and General Staff College in Fort Leavenworth, where I was teaching lieutenant colonels to go on in their careers. So for me, teaching was a bit of a habit. It's something that I enjoyed. And in command positions, you're mentoring, you're leading, and you're teaching and trying to encourage people. So for me, it was something pretty natural.
Right.
And I've been able to, I guess, satisfy that desire to teach, but also think carefully about Australia, our place in the world, and the Defence Force. And obviously I'm biased towards the Army, but the Army's position in national security and the Australian Defence Force, but how we can make sure the Army's a good career and that it does serve the nation. And that, I guess, serving the nation, I used to think about the Army, and I'd be excited when I saw an Army truck go by. The little motto on there was serving the nation.
Right.
And I think in some ways I'm still trying to do that.
Right.
How can I serve the nation?
Draw on the benefit of all that scar tissue. And
That's right, yeah.
One of the things you did too, which was incredibly impressive, was you actually designed a course at US Staff College teaching counterinsurgency.
Yes.
And of course, later on, the US Army kind of abandoned all thought or doctrine in relation to that, wanting to wipe it under the carpet as a bad experience. But I went back and studied that course material you did, and of course, learning and teaching counterinsurgency teaches you really all about that whole of government, all the elements of national power you've got to bring to achieve, a good outcome in those situations. Is that also something that you've focused on in terms of like the national policy construct here and what the NSI could contribute to that discussion?
Both at Commander General Staff College, but also through my career here in Australia, because I joined in 1971, graduated as an officer in 1974.
Right.
And we're just coming out of Vietnam. And if you just do the raw figures, there were about 34,000 in the army at that stage. And then we went through what some people have called the long peace.
Right.
And then we got to things like Cambodia, Rwanda, Somalia. And they were little tests, and they were getting us ready for what was to come.
Right.
And so thinking that Australia through that period had rejected big wars, America had rejected small wars.
Right.
And we weren't allowed to teach Vietnam. And this is the late 80s in the US. We weren't allowed to teach Vietnam because we don't do windows, we don't do floors, and we don't do guerrillas. And the Americans were longing for the Battle of the Fulda Gap,
Right.
where the Operational Maneuver Group from the Soviet Union would come across. Yeah. And in some ways, we rejected our past and didn't prepare for the future.
Right.
There was this sort of hollowness about the army. It was getting smaller. By the time I became chief, we were about 25,000.
Right.
And we weren't ready for those things that started to happen. I'd thought about them in this Directorate of Army Research and Analysis. How do we need to change and what do we need to do? And that's followed through now, because I was Chief of Staff at the Australian Theatre. We went to Timor. You were in Timor and you saw what happened there. We weren't ready for that. In many ways, we're lucky to get away with it. If the Indonesians had cut up rough, it would have been very hard. We didn't have the logistics. We didn't have the intelligence. We didn't have the strategic lift, whole range of things. And so to me, the need now was to make changes.
Right.
And so we got this hardened and networked army up and running. And thanks to the then Liberal government and John Howard in particular, he saw the need to change the army for what was coming. And I'd been reading a lot about Paul Kennedy had written The Troubled and Fractured Planet. There's books being written about this time saying, well, hang on, this period of peace, remember, it was the end of history. Francis Fukuyama had talked about that. I know you don't like that phrase because it was totally untrue.
Yeah.
We had the peace dividend. And so we go to Timor. It was a struggle. Then things started to move along, and it's Iraq and Afghanistan. It was an even more of a struggle, and we had to pull our punch. What we could offer government, frankly, wasn't enough. And we know in some cases, some Americans would say, hey, you're not pulling your weight. There's a phrase around the Middle East, are you a swimmer or a non-swimmer?
Yep.
We were swimmers, but just. We're doing 25-metre laps rather than 50-metre laps.
Yes.
So to me, that was the exciting part.
Right.
And it was the culmination of that career up until then, when I was appointed chief, that we were at it.
Yeah.
In fact, I started using the phrase, this is an army at war, and almost self-consciously. Well, public, don't worry about it. We've got this, but we needed help. And I think we're in that situation again. And the parallel almost is that the army's getting smaller again. It doesn't have that broad view. It's not allowed to have a broad view.
Right.
And I think, and we're hearing from all our strategists, including those who are in government, this is the most contested period, the most difficult geopolitical period that we've seen for a long time. I don't think we're ready. And that's in large part what I'm trying to do here, get us ready.
Yeah, and I think you identified there was a gap in preparation for, particularly leadership in defence. We'd grown up in that, I guess, quiet period where you'd go out and do your training at places like Puckapunyal, and all you'd ever see was kangaroos and emus. And so we completely forgot the human terrain part of this, and what is it that actually is the end state that you're looking to achieve, and how do you work with other elements of national power and actors on the battle space to achieve those end states. And so you've got that conversation going again, but I guess we've never really stitched up at the strategic level how that should operate in, I guess, a kind of a whole of government campaign planning sense. And
yeah, that's an important point to make, this whole of government, or some people are now calling it a national security approach.
Right.
And I've written about this, and I know that you're interested in this, and a lot of others, a national security advisor. Because we need to think about all the elements of national power, and it's not just the military or the army, and I think there's an imbalance there, but are we doing the best we can with our diplomacy through foreign affairs and trade? Are we doing the best we can through our economic attitudes and our issues. And increasingly important nowadays is what some people are calling soft power.
Yep.
That people want to be like you because they admire you and respect you. Now, you're not going to deliver everything with soft power, but when you put all of these things together, and now we're worried about what's happening in the cyberspace. We put some money into that, which is good.
Right.
I'm very concerned about, I think, a war that's already begun, which is the war in space,
Yep.
and we're not ready for that. And as far as I can see, the ambushes are set, the patrols are out, the reconnaissance parties are out,
Yes.
and the moment there is a conflict, don't rely on space, and we need to protect it. We need to be ready for it. So as I look back over my career, there are a few really important parts to it.
Right.
One was the time with the Gurkhas, and that taught me that Australia really was part of Asia. And I think that's important. And as we look at the Indo-Pacific now, we need that partnership with Asia. We need to be able to understand them. And the other part was at Commander General Staff College in the US, where I saw the bigger view of things, the joint and combined view, and how you need to be working as part of a global alliance.
Right.
So they're the sorts of things that I've taken as lessons that I need to be thinking about and really wanting to, and happy that you and others are joining us to pursue these issues, because these are fraught times. We need to be ready.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's and it has kind of broken out the contest already, and it's in the information warfare space as well, which we have Mike and others that we're going to be contributing to that discussion on. But in terms of your ambition for where the NSI and the University of Canberra can contribute to this, what sort of things and activities do you think you'd like to see happen out here at UC and with the NSI?
Well, firstly, I want to make sure that the students who come here get a great education.
Right.
They get a rounded education. Business governance law, that's a faculty I'm in. I can focus on national security. I also teach a subject called the challenge of modern terrorism.
Right.
Because that is, I think, neglected at the moment. There is a huge challenge out there. And this is not 5 years or 10 years. This is 100 years.
Right.
This is a cosmic battle between good and evil, and they're not my words. We're the good guys.
Right.
But it will last for a very, very long time, and we need to be ready for that. You're right about information, disinformation. Who can we trust with the information? So I want the students to get a great education. I want them also to be able to contribute in the national security arena here in Canberra. And it's terrific when some of them come back and say, oh, I've got a job in defence, or someone will give you a wink and say, well, I work for one of those agencies.
Right.
So Canberra is the epicentre of security for the country. It's mostly the policy. Some will go and work with the federal police, and that to me is really satisfying. But I also want to work on the agenda of what is national security. And I think we're in a bit of a hole at the moment. Under the Rudd government, the National Security Statement to Parliament, Julia Gillard made a national security strategy in January 2013. And I think that was the high water mark of combining all of these different agencies and producing a whole of government response.
Right.
I think we need to come back to that. So to me, that's an important part.
Right.
How can we work that discussion? Because again, back to my career, I flew up to Iraq and Afghanistan, and I know you were there in both places, thinking, well, this is a whole of government response, because people were saying, well, it's a whole of government response. I'd go into Kabul or Kandahar or Baghdad or somewhere, and you'd look around, I couldn't see a whole of government. All I could see was a green uniform, occasional Air Force, and they did a great job, and the Navy, but where's the whole of government? And I think we really need to get that going, because whatever's coming isn't just for an army, isn't just for the Defence Force, it's for all of us, and we need to think about it. And we've just had the election. This is a guns and butter moment.
Yes.
Guns, I think the Defence Force is underfunded and needs to be directed in different ways. And it's hard to say we're giving too much to butter to social welfare, but I think the balance is out of whack. So there's another thing I'd like to try and achieve.
Yeah, question of priorities, meeting events, and
absolutely, yeah.
So, and I guess trying to stimulate conversations amongst all the players who can contribute to the building of government policy, I guess, in a trusted space, where we can bring in all the expertise and be a bit of a policy clearinghouse?
Well, I think it's got to be a policy creation house.
Mm-hmm.
We've just had the election, and frankly, defence hardly got a mention, and that's not good enough, given what we've been told about the strategic circumstances.
Yes.
So there needs to be policy development. There needs to be a focus on that discussion. And I know that the new arrangements, we're not going to have white papers in defence anymore, and I worked on 4 of those damn things. They take a long time, and they are a place where you can think.
Yes.
I'm not sure what's coming next. Every 2 years we're going to get some sort of statement. Are we going to get the right ideas? Are we going to understand the momentum in society, the momentum in what's happening in the broader community? And we talk about autocratic states.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them out there, and they're getting stronger.
Yeah.
We talk about democratic states. Well, there aren't so many out there, and they seem to be getting weaker.
Yeah.
Where do we stand as Australia?
Yeah, no, these are really important discussions too, and what we'll be doing too is coming back to these with you to talk in more detail about that and how that we can stitch up that strategic level more effectively, what mechanisms could be explored. So this is really exciting that we have now this vehicle through your work in establishing the Institute, and then, this ability to communicate around it and the activities, the forums and the conferences that we hope to do. So really excited to be working with you on this, and we'll build out our team over time, and I think be a place where students particularly might want to come and learn and benefit from all of that. So
certainly hope so, and I'm really pleased that you're here, because you and I have worked together before, and I've seen your exploits both as a soldier and as a lawyer, and I think you combine those 2 skills really well. So it's exciting that you're here and that you're able to attract others. So let's get going and talk about national security.
For sure. No, thanks very much, Peter, for coming in and having a chat with us today. And so that rounds out our team in relation to the National Security Institute and the people who you'll be seeing quite often on this podcast and the issues that we'll be talking about. So we'll finish the interview there, Peter, but thanks very much for being with us, and we'll come back to you soon to talk about some of these issues in more detail, particularly focusing to begin with on this information warfare issue. So we'll see you again next time.